So hopefully at this point, using slope is something you can do quickly. You can quickly find all four of those slopes. You notice I'm not giving you the grid, so you can't just count boxes. We want you to be able to go, hey, from -2 to -1, I just went up 1. From -2 to +7, I went over 9. So the slope of GP, 1/9. And do the same thing here. From -5 to -4, that's up 1. From -4 to +5, I just went up 9. These both have a slope of +1/9. So I can show that those two are parallel. And GUMP, whatever it is, has got two parallel sides. And that's really what slope shows you. It shows you parallelness and perpendicularness. Do the same thing here. If I go from -5 to 2, that's up 3. From -4 to -2, that's up 2. So the slope here is 3 halves. And I'm not counting boxes. I'm just using numerical values or doing some calculation. If you want to write out some subtraction on your paper, feel free to do that. From -4 to 1 to -1, that's also up 3. And from 5 to 7, that's up 2. So bingo, you could prove that these are parallel and the left and right are parallel, which makes it a parallelogram. Now, if any one of these slopes didn't work out, maybe it's a trapezoid. If you only had one pair on there. If you found out these were right angles, maybe you say it's a rectangle. So, conclusion with words, supported by calculation in this case. I'm going to find those actual slopes. I'm going to clarify what I'm finding. I can use M for slope, or I can actually calculate those slopes. I would show that these two have slopes of 1/9 and these two have slopes of 3 halves, and justify that with a combination of words, calculations, and numbers. Now, this is not on your paper, but I added on here, should have added on here. If instead of doing slopes, you were asked to show with congruence. Congruence, the word congruence implies distances are the same, or angles are the same. In this case, we're talking about distance. You could show this distance is the same as that distance. And it's nice when you have slopes here. This is like your A and your B if you want to find C squared. A squared plus B squared would give you 81 plus 1 is 82. So you could easily show that these are rad 82. And the same thing here, up 3 and over 2 is 3 squared plus 2 squared, which is 9 plus 4, which is rad 13. So the term congruence implies you're going to find distances. I could do the same proof if I was directed to by showing the opposite sides are equal instead of showing they're parallel. So instead of using slope, I do it by using distance. And if you did that, if you want to pause this and try it, go for it. You could show they both have a square root in there. They're both not clean. They don't simplify. I believe the little short ones are rad 13, and I believe the longer ones are the square root of 82 because you're doing 81 plus 1. And I would show that both calculations, simplify to the same thing, idea of coordinate proof. All right, the last one here, we need some love in our lives. Why not have a quadrilateral that brings the love into our lives? I want you to prove 2 things about love. Love conquers all. I don't know, or maybe just prove 2 things about this particular quadrilateral that we've got here. So, we've got some coordinates on that. Again, not counting numbers on a grid, actually doing some calculation on here. Looking at it, you probably go, hey, wait a minute, not a rhombus, not a square, not a rectangle, not a parallelogram. The only one other choice Mr. Hess mentioned was that trapezoid thing. Trapezoids are proven or explained based on parallelism. You prove parallelism based on slope. So if I find 1, 2, 3, 4 slopes, I can prove that. Again, I'd pause this thing and go for it, see what you can prove. Come back in a minute. And when you're done with that, I want you to prove something else. Prove 2 things. So you could prove that it's not isosceles. That's one thing you could prove. You could prove something is going on here at O and something's going on here at V. That's what I chose to prove as my second thing. I proved that there's right angles at V and O. I could have proved it's a trapezoid with not isosceles. Once I found the slopes, I said, holy cow, I can draw another conclusion about the slopes. Not only are these parallel, but they're also at a right angle with OV or VO. So hopefully you got slopes of -1/4 and +4, which happen to be perpendicular. And hopefully you could show that LO is parallel with EV because both of their slopes are -1/4. Again, I've got a combination of numbers, words, and calculations. In addition to that, I also have to show that there are 2 sides that are not parallel. In other words, they don't have any relationship between the slopes here. This slope of 3/5 and this slope of 4/1 have no relationship. If I don't show that, I haven't proven that it can't be a parallelogram. So I've got to make sure I justify that statement fully. You can't say it's a trapezoid because you only did half the work. You've got to prove, you've got to justify, you've got to explain fully that there is one pair of non-parallel sides. Hopefully that makes sense. Enjoy.